Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Litteral, host of JohnLitteral.com. Yes, I changed the domain name to my website from literaltruth.com to JohnLitteral.com. Just wanted to throw that out there because I'm going to leave a link in the description box below to the free PDFs of my last 3 books. So this is part 2 of my book called Confessions of a Free-Thinking Christian. And in this section, we're going to start off with the section called Limbo. So this term limbo is what I had adopted to refer to my experience that I went through after I decided to leave institutionalized Christianity. I would not say that I rejected Christianity, but I had to step back and give myself time to rethink my Christian worldview. I needed time to think and to give myself the space to let my mind untrain itself from the mental defaults that I developed from my life experiences in Christianity and what I learned in Christianity all those previous years. The reason why I felt that I had to do that was so that I could allow myself to start examining Christianity with a fresh perspective and avoid the subconscious biases and firewalls that I developed and was trained for concerning spiritual development or spiritual discernment. I wanted to be able to seek the truth without any traces of past ideological prejudices to cloud my judgment as I discovered new information and new ways of looking at things. I wanted to be as open-minded as possible so that I could follow the truth wherever it led me, and let the chips fall where they may. That has always been my motto, which is one reason why I was willing to go from being a Southern Baptist to a Catholic, and a Catholic to an Eastern Orthodox Christian, based upon seeking truth and following where the information led me. I never felt comfortable being an ideologue and defending a belief or position for the sake of winning an argument, or to fit in cliques and to grow my network, but I've always wanted to find the truth for the sake of truth alone. And I've always been willing to suffer the consequences of people's negative opinions of me and rifts in my social life. I opened my mind and looked at many perspectives with the least amount of bias as I could. Within a few years' span, I listened to atheists, occultists, etc., trying to seek truth. I think the most important thing that I did was spend a lot of time in solitude and silence so I could hear God speak to me through my intuition. Despite my departure from institutionalized Christianity, I maintained my prayer life, perhaps stepping it up a few notches and never ceasing to seek God's will. All I have ever desired is to do God's will and to be who He wants me to be, period. As much as I desired for a shortcut to find what it was that I was looking for, it took lots of deep soul searching, therefore realizing that it is a never-ending pursuit in this lifetime. What I wouldn't have given to have been able to sit down with God or one of His angels and have them explain to me everything, like a big questions and answers session where I could ask anything and get a point-blank answer. But unfortunately, it's not that simple to learn the deep truths of God and His will for our lives. It takes patience, endurance, passion, morality, study, and sometimes the road of hard knocks with trial and error. The next section, leaving institutionalized Christianity. When I say institutionalized Christianity, many people may assume that they understand what I mean, and perhaps they do. But for clarification about what I mean by that is the belief that Christianity is only found within one centralized authority of religious Christian ideology. Institutionalized Christianity says that anyone who professes anything distinct from what they have defined as dogma is neither Christian or not Christian enough. Institutionalized Christianity brings large groups of people under one ideological umbrella and dictates what everyone believes through a hierarchical structure that proclaims to have authority over everyone within the institution. There is a danger in institutionalized Christianity because there is a universal danger in everything institutionalized. The danger is the very fact that all institutions that have a considerable amount of people within it are targets for being infiltrated and co-opted by those who want to hijack them in order to control them for their agenda. Secret societies have been hijacking religious institutions for many centuries by having agents pose as converts and clergymen in order to covertly climb the ranks and establish positions of power and control within. Many world religions and sects within world religions have been infiltrated for so many years that there are networks within that have already completely taken over and therefore controlling the whole institution without most of the members even realizing it. In my last book, called The Antichrist and His Cult, I gave examples of how Islam was infiltrated by the false Jewish Messiah Sabbatai Zevi in 1666 AD and his followers the Donma. I also showed how the Illuminati infiltrated different sects of Christianity along with governments and so on. Christianity has been a target of Satan and his minions ever since Christ established it 2,000 years ago. In the Bible, there are plenty of examples of early infiltration, such as in the book of Revelation, chapters 2 and 3. I mentioned this in my book called The Antichrist and His Cult, where I say, quote, in chapters 2 and 3 of the book of Revelation, Jesus is recorded as admonishing the 7 churches of Asia, and there are perhaps some of the early infiltrators of Christianity, such as in Ephesus, saying, quote, those who say they are apostles and not. Revelation 2, chapter 2, verse 2. Also, the Nicolaitans in chapter 2, verse 6, where it says, quote, those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. That's in chapter 2, verse 9, and chapter 3, verse 9. Also Pergamos, where it says, quote, where Satan's throne is, and where the doctrine of Balaam and the Nicolaitans was being taught. Chapter 2, verses 12 through 15. And in Thyatira, where the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, chapter 2, verse 20. As for those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan, this seems very similar and perhaps an early manifestation of the Sabbatean Frankists today, such as the Rothschilds and others who make up the Jewish elements of the Illuminati, which I will go into further detail on in this book. End of quote. But perhaps the most devastating and most effective covert hijacking of Christianity came from the Roman Empire through Constantine, which led to the institutionalizing of much of Christendom. Previously, the Roman Empire, which was led by the Flavian dark sun occultist, had attempted to infiltrate Christianity with a little success, but Christians did a great job spotting the infiltrators and running them off. They also tried snuffing out Christianity through heavy persecution, which actually backfired and helped Christianity to spread even more, as shown by Tertullian of Carthage, who lived during 155 to 220 AD. Tertullian said, quote, every time you mow us down, our numbers increase. The blood of Christians is the seed. End of quote. But sadly, the powers that be of the Roman Empire found a way to unite the Romans' ruling class and the hierarchy of the church in order to convince the bishops of the church to allow the ruling class to participate in defining binding doctrine or dogma and to develop an institutionalized structure and centralized network. That is, they created a controlling mechanism for Christianity to bring all Christians under one centralized umbrella through a ruling class/priest class central authority. All they had to do was convince the leaders of the church that the Roman Emperor Constantine had a dream or a vision that Jesus appeared to him, which led to Constantine becoming a Christian and pledging to lift the persecution of Christians and making Christianity the official religion of the empire. The first ecumenical council of the church was enforced by a Roman emperor, which should be a problematic red flag in itself, who then coerced the bishops of the church in 325 AD to get together for the Council of Nicaea that institutionalized Christianity. Mark Passio sums this up, saying, quote, "The Flavians' own astrotheology-based religion was devoted to a solar deity called Sol Invictus, which means the unconquerable sun. These solar cult members sought to unify the Roman Empire under a common state-run religion by changing the problematic early Christian philosophy to reflect the myths of their own astrotheological solar god, which they inherited from even older solar cult traditions. The continuity of this solar cult mythos can be observed in the stories and characteristics of Mithra, Zoroaster, Dionysus, Horus, Osiris, Serapis, and many others. The hugely influential Piso family of the Copernican bloodline of Rome had already been at work on the Roman Empire's quote-unquote Christian problem since the mid-1st century AD, when the Pisos began to lay the foundations of the new state religion designed to control people's thought and suppress further rebellion against the authority of the ruling class. To crush the growing rebellion in consciousness once and for all, the Flavian and Neo-Flavian dynasties knew that the Roman Empire would ultimately need to be united under such a state-controlled belief system. Constantine, quote-unquote the Great, would ultimately take up this task. In 325 AD, Constantine held the Council of Nicaea, where exoteric religious leaders of the time were held under duress to develop a Roman-sanctioned legal religion suitable for the masses. The Nicene Council weeded out any knowledge which spoke of spirituality forbidden by the ruling class. End of quote by Mark Passio. Now, whether or not Constantine had good intentions for Christianity, imposing the immersion of the ruling class upon the Christian faith should have never been tolerated, because this was not a hands-off liberation, but rather the typical promise of privileges and freedom for authoritative meddling and control. This became the incarnation of everything that Christ came here to oppose. Here were three entities that Jesus opposed more than anything else. That is, government, religion, and the financial order of the day. But as we see what the institutionalization of Christianity has developed into, especially looking at the Catholic Church and its banking empire, history of always being at the center of geopolitics and a powerful priest class and hierarchy that reeks of dark religious occultism. It has become the opposite of what Christ established. Now, the three worldly dynamics Jesus actually fought against during his lifetime, as described in the New Testament, were what I call the unholy trinity. That's religion, money, and government. Jesus challenged the established religious orders of his day, that is, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He took great issue with the usury of the temple money changers and the established, who were the established financial order of the day. And of course, he was convicted and crucified by the Roman government at the behest of the religious and monetary powers. This example, which fake Christians never talk about, also serves to illustrate where the true power of the control system ultimately lies. We have religion, which is thought control. It perpetuates ignorance based upon belief, not a search for truth. Controlled by a dark occult priest class, and it's the essence of all mind control, basis for the old world order. Also, money, which is emotional control. It perpetuates apathy. It's the new God to which human beings now entirely devote their care, attention, and energy. It's the ultimate religion, and it's the basis for the New World Order. And then we have government, which is bodily control. It perpetuates cowardice. It's based upon the erroneous belief in authority. It's the violent enforcer for dark occultists and bankers, and it is of the New World Order. Fortunately, there's always been those who have led opposition to this derailment from true Christianity, even by Catholics who have pushed for reform. History shows us that those who practice Christianity apart from the Catholic Church were at times vehemently attacked. There have been countless departures from Catholicism, but it seems that human nature is inclined to believe in authority and desire to be told what to do and how to think. That is because the powers that be have always used this type of mind control and indoctrination to control the masses, to get the population to believe in authority of the ruling class and priest class, and to keep the masses to think within a certain paradigm that prevents critical and free thinking. One example is the left-right paradigm in politics. This paradigm was created to keep the population divided amongst itself and to not think for themselves. For example, in America, we have a two-party system of Republicans and Democrats. Almost everyone in America claims to be either one or the other, and when a critical thinker says that they do not support either, or perhaps go as far as to say that they do not believe in authority of government, most Americans just look at you with glazed-over eyes. The reason is because there is a multi-trillion-dollar industry that has been manipulating what we are taught in government, education, the media, entertainment industry, etc., which shapes our worldview from cradle to grave, therefore keeping our minds within a paradigm which acts as a prison cell for the mind. People therefore cannot even imagine thinking outside of the box that has been created and that their minds have been stuck in their whole lives. The mind control is so powerful that even when someone does come to the realization that their worldview has been manufactured and they start to break away and to think for themselves outside of the paradigm, it usually takes a while to unlearn those things that have your mind operating like computers with a factory default setting. Therefore, I believe it's important for each and every one of us to do our research and follow the truth wherever it leads us. Never fear asking the tough questions that challenge our religious beliefs and worldviews. When new information opens new doors, it is important to study it, challenge it, and accept and embrace it if it proves authentic and true. Having an open mind and being willing to be open to all possibilities is the greatest way to grow in truth. In the end, truth and freedom is the ultimate goal. In my opinion, Jesus came and provided us with the purest form of truth and freedom because he is the truth that sets us free. But Satan and his minions work 24/7 to distort Christianity. And it is important to recognize those places in the Christian faith that has been hijacked and co-opted so that we can avoid being misled. Institutions are always targets for Satan and his minions, which means that we need to be free thinkers and not slaves and dupes to institutions that claim themselves authority over our minds. Do your research, pray about what you learn, take the time to digest it all, and trust in your intuition and the Holy Spirit to guide you into truth. That ends this section 2 of the reading of the Confessions of a Free-Thinking Christian. I will leave a link in the description box below so you can actually read these my last 3 books for free with free PDFs. So I appreciate you all. Take care. Have a good day.